Hello, my name is Joe Pastuch, and today I'll be giving a presentation on autism spectrum disorder, also known as ASD, and how school counselors can help students with autism in and out of the classroom. Throughout my presentation, you'll hear me use the terms autism, autism spectrum disorder, and ASD interchangeably. Agenda. What is autism? Autism facts and autism in New Jersey. Symptoms and characteristics of autism. Autism diagnosis. Therapies for autism. Autism in education. Meet Dean, the young boy on the spectrum. Autism and the school counselor. Conclusion, and lastly, the references for my presentation. First and foremost, what is autism? Autism spectrum disorder is a complex developmental condition that involves persistent challenges in social interaction, speech and nonverbal communication, and restricted/repetitive behaviors, according to the American Psychiatric Association. Autism is considered to be a developmental disorder because the symptoms begin early in life, usually in the first 2 years of life, and diagnosis usually around 2 to 3 years old is when diagnosis takes place. People with ASD experience difficulty with communication and interacting with others. They may display limited interest and recurrent behaviors, and also exhibit symptoms that adversely affect their ability to function in a proper manner at home, work, or in a school environment. Let's take a look at some quick autism facts. According to the Centers for Disease Control, also known as the CDC, 1 in 59 children are estimated to have autism. Autism is 3 to 4 more times more likely to appear in boys than girls. And when girls do have autism, they tend to have less obvious signs than their male counterparts. Autism also occurs in all ethnic, racial, and socioeconomic groups. There's not one group that it pertains to. Mostly, you'll find autism in all types of groups. And one thing I want to mention is that the CDC created what's known as the Autism and Developmental Disabilities Monitoring Network to track autism. In 2016, they found no overall difference in the number of African American children identified with ASD versus their white counterparts. And also, the number of Hispanic children with autism is lower when compared to white or African American children. As we're looking at numbers and facts about autism, let's take a deeper look here in the Garden State, right here in New Jersey. The New Jersey Autism Study in 2016 found that 1 in 32 8-year-old children were discovered to have autism, with white children 1.3 times more likely to have autism than African American children. Boys were 4 times more likely than girls to have autism, and 44% of children identified with ASD had a comprehensive developmental evaluation by their 3rd birthday. And the tracking area by the ADDM for this New Jersey Autism Study was Essex, Hudson, Union, and Ocean counties. So small group, but those numbers are definitely telling. And as we talk again about the Autism Developmental Disabilities and Monitoring Network, they were created by the CDC with the birth of the Children's Health Act of 2000 that instructed the CDC to create the ADDM in order to track the numbers and characteristics of children with ASD, as well as other developmental disabilities. And right now, in the United States, the ADDM is the largest tracking system for children with autism. Let's take a look at some signs and symptoms of autism. Once again, these are some symptoms. No 2 people with autism are the same, so not every person is going to have the same signs, symptoms, characteristics, but some of the more common signs you'll see with someone with autism is little to no eye contact, failure to respond to their name if they're being called by someone, a lack of joy when from activities or objects when compared to typical children. There's a definite inability sometimes to engage in back and forth conversation. And also, we can sometimes see a fixation on a certain favorite subject matter, and that person with autism speaking incessantly about it, even though the person listening to them is not interested, and that person with autism does not have the social cues to pick up on that lack of interest. So they'll just keep chattering about that favorite subject. They can also have sleep problems, inability to sleep through the night or falling asleep during the day. And also, as far as when they speak, they may speak with a deadpan voice or a sing-song voice or even in a robot-like manner. Let's take a look at some possible causes and risk factors for autism. There's no exact science with these causes or risk factors. It's not known to be exact or specific. Genes are believed to work together with environmental influences to affect development. Some of these factors are when a child has older parents, or they already have a sibling with autism, child born with low birth weight. Sometimes the birth mother has high blood pressure, what's known as preeclampsia, during pregnancy. And lastly, certain genetic conditions such as Down syndrome, Fragile X, and Rett syndrome can also possibly lead to autism. Sometimes you hear the term autism and you also hear the terms Asperger's. I wanted to clarify something about that. In 2013, the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, also known as the DSM-5, replaced autism disorder, Asperger's disorder, and other pervasive developmental disorders and put them all under one roof, one umbrella, with one umbrella diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. So moving forward, since 2013, Asperger's is now considered to be autism. How is autism diagnosed? Autism is diagnosed most often during well child checkups with the child's doctor. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends all children be screened for developmental delays at 9, 18, 24, and 30-month well visits. Autism screenings exclusively are recommended at 18 and 24-month well visits. It's also important when parents go on these well visits with their child, if they have any thoughts or concerns regarding development or delays, that they speak to their pediatrician at that time so that the pediatrician can take a further look and make proper recommendations. When a child does show developmental problems, they're referred to a second stage evaluation. Now, when we talk about diagnosis, there's one thing that is a positive thing that's taking place. More children are being diagnosed earlier, especially by age 4 than in previous years, according to the CDC. So that's a good thing, because as soon as these children are diagnosed, then the quicker the wheel starts turning for them to get the proper therapies and services they need to thrive. During the second evaluation, that's going to be conducted by a team of doctors, physicians, and health professionals, and they're going to take a deeper dive look at language abilities, cognitive level, thinking skills, also age-appropriate skills. Is the child eating, dressing, or toileting by themselves? And lastly, they can also take a look at a blood test and a hearing test. So now that we know how autism is diagnosed, I want to talk about programs and therapies that help children with ASD. First, we'll start with speech therapy. Speech therapy addresses challenges with language and communication. It starts with a speech language pathologist, also known as SLP, taking a look at that child and assessing communication strengths and weaknesses, and focusing on therapies to improve eye contact, listening skills, spoken language, how they respond to questions, as well as listening comprehension and following directions. Another therapy I'd like to talk about is occupational therapy. Occupational therapy assists people with cognitive, physical, social, and motor skills, helping them become more independent and able to take part in a wide range of activities. An occupational therapist, also known as an OT, will take a look at a child's ability and identifies any obstacles that prevent them from participating in typical day-to-day activities. They will set goals to allow the child to work on such skills that they need, such as dressing, eating, grooming, as well as bathroom use, and most importantly, fine motor skills, writing, coloring, using scissors, things of that nature. And an occupational therapist is a licensed individual. They have a master's degree, and they need to pass a national exam, as well as being licensed in the state in which they practice. Next up, I'd like to talk about ABA therapy, also known as applied behavioral analysis. This is the analysis, it's the science based on learning and behavior, how behavior works and how environments can affect behavior of an individual. ABA therapy seeks to increase behaviors that are good and decrease behaviors that are bad and affect learning in a negative manner. ABA therapy helps enhance language, social skills, as well as communication skills. It can help focus memory, academic performance, and decrease problem behaviors. And to be a behavior certified behavior analyst, a BCBA, you need a master's degree or a PhD in psychology or behavior analysis. Also need to pass a national certification exam and also seek a state license in which they practice, similar to the OT. The last therapy I would mention is medication. This is probably the least popular therapy, but medication prescribed by a doctor with the proper dosage can help alleviate many problems such as hyperactivity, repetitive behavior, irritability, aggression, attention and lack of focus, as well as depression and anxiety. So now let's talk about autism and the school setting. I'd like to talk about individual education plans right now. Individual education plan is a written document that highlights a program of special education instruction, school supports, and services that help a child succeed in school. To get an individual education plan, also known as IEP, there has to be an evaluation done by the school district. And if the school district determines that that child is eligible for an IEP, then an IEP is designed specifically for that child's own needs. And there's no cost for an IEP. It's covered by the federal law under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA. So now we talked about autism, some therapies, and one thing we must remember that the symptoms and severity of autism vary from person to person. You're never going to meet two people with the same symptoms, the same behaviors. There's an old saying, if you met one person with autism, you met one person with autism. So I'd like to introduce you to someone with ASD, and that person is my 8-year-old son, Dean. He was born February 12th, 2013. When he was 18 months old, he had a noticeable speech delay. So we met with his doctor, and the doctor suggested that we pursue early intervention. So what is early intervention? Early intervention, according to the CDC, is a term used to describe services and supports that are available to babies and young children with developmental delays and disabilities and their families. These services run the gamut. It could be speech, occupational therapy, behavioral therapy, physical therapy, and whatever needs the child has or the family needs to help that child. When Dean was 20 months old, we applied and received approval for early intervention. We sought private as opposed to state therapies for him at that time. And when he was 3 years old, he became eligible for additional services through our school district, the Matawan Aberdeen School District. Lastly, at 4 years old, we had Dean evaluated with a neurodevelopmental pediatrician who at that time diagnosed him with ASD. So we talked about a couple of different therapies. Dean gets speech therapy and occupational therapy, both in school and privately. So I'd like to take a look and show you some of his therapy sessions with Miss Linda, his speech pathologist, so you can see an idea of what goes on in these sessions. And Miss Linda will also talk about Dean's progress.
My name is Linda, and I am Dean's private speech therapist. A lot of times, many children on the autism spectrum have both private therapy and in-school services as well. I've been working with Dean for the past 3 years, and when I first started working with Dean, he was not using much language at all. He's come a tremendous distance in his language skills. He uses a lot now. A lot of times, his responses still tend to be a little bit perseverative or echolalic, but he has made a great deal of progress, and he's using a lot more functional language than he did when I first started seeing him. And a button. Which one? Touch the sled with an airplane, a mouse, and a button. Oh, yeah, that's the one. Good job. All right, ready? Hands quiet. Hands quiet. Okay, listen. Touch the sled. Oh. Are you listening? Dean? Are you listening? Quiet mouth. Ready? Touch the sled with a mouse, a button, and a cat. Yeah, very good. Mouse, button, cat. Good job. Ready? Right hands. Touch the sled with a bead, a dog, and a mouse. That wasn't all of them. Listen again. Listen. Touch the sled with a bead, a dog, and a mouse. That's it. Bead, dog, mouse. Nice job. Ready? Sit up. Sit up. Right hands. Ready? Touch the sled with a bead, an airplane, and a mouse. Good job. Bead, airplane, mouse. Nice listening. Hi, my name is Linda, and I'm the speech language pathologist who's working with Dean. I've been working with him since he's 2 years old, and at that point he was nonverbal and very self-directed, and he has come a tremendous distance in his communication skills. He's now able to verbalize a lot, and he uses a lot of language. At this point, we're working on improving his grammar, and we're working on his ability to use concepts and to understand directions, more complex directions, and he's really making a great deal of progress to that as well. Okay. All right, so you remember that we have to point to the same size and objects. So ready? Look. Little bear, big ball. Big bear, little book. Little bear, big book. Big bear, big ball. Big bear, little ball. Little bear, little book. Big bear, big book. Little bear, little ball. Ready? Okay. Touch the little bear with a little book. Excellent, Dean. Ready? Touch the big bear with a big book. Nice job.
Now that we have an understanding of what autism is and how autism is diagnosed, as well as therapies for autism, how can school counselors get involved with assisting students with ASD? School counselors can establish peer-to-peer groups between students with ASD and typical students, can help develop support, social skills modeling, understanding, as well as friendships. There's also check-in, check-out. Here we have students with autism check in with their school counselor at the start of the school day and once again before the school day ends. School counselors can also be flexible to meet with parents of students with autism as needed to discuss questions and concerns about their child's education as well as in-school supports. Here I have a school counselor action plan to help students with ASD. School counselors must remember to always take the initiative in making families aware of their role as an advocate for their child. They can also always maintain a positive and least restrictive learning environment, and they can work on that with the child study team. They can also be aware of possible physical and emotional bullying risks for students with ASD. Once again, students that are different are always susceptible to bullying, so this is very important. And lastly, education. Educate all students as well as the school community why it's important to be a good peer. One thing I like to do as a parent, as well as a counselor, is refer local resources. I'd like to mention 3 resources that I use as a parent, and I like to share with anybody I meet in the special needs community. First and foremost, the first organization I like to mention is POAC. POAC is Parents of Autistic Children. It's a 501(c) nonprofit organization that provides services such as training and education for parents, legal guardians, and educators. They offer recreation and support services to children with ASD and their families. They have a great surf program that they do in the summer in Ocean County, which is a great, one of their big selling points that pulls people in. They also offer training for police and first responders to help them recognize autism and how to respond to people with autism in their community. And they also create autism awareness through school assemblies throughout the state. Another organization I belong to is called Parents of Special People Incorporated. Once again, a 501(c)(3) charity benefiting special needs community in the Matawan-Aberdeen School District. You don't have to be a member of the school district to join Parents of Special People. You just have to be sponsored by a family that is a member. They do a lot of different things. They provide understanding support to parents regarding how various disabilities affect learning. They have speakers and workshops on topics of need and interest. And if there's something that hasn't been covered, they'll go out and bring that speaker in to our community to educate people of our group. They receive no public funding. They raise all their money. All their fundraising goes directly back into their programs. And the latest resource that my family has taken part of is called Just for Kicks. It's special needs soccer run by the Old Bridge, New Jersey Girls Soccer League in Old Bridge, New Jersey. It's an inclusive soccer league for special needs boys and girls in Old Bridge and the surrounding area. They have seasons in the fall and spring on Saturday mornings where special needs athletes, not just students with autism, kids with autism, it's all sorts of kids that have Down syndrome, autism, kids that are medically fragile. These athletes are paired up with teenage buddies who help them out through their practices. And there's right now there's currently over 45 coaches, 150 buddies, and 106 athletes during the fall season. And over the 14 years existence of Just for Kicks, over 1,300 players and 4,000 buddies have participated in the program. As I head towards the end of this presentation, I just want to mention that as school counselors, we must always remember it's our responsibility to assist all students to reach their full potential and become contributing members of the school community. And one thing I'd like to share as a final thought is from a parent who has 2 children with ASD by the name of Mary Elizabeth. And she says, while typical children are scheduling play dates and extracurricular activities, our children's lives are about therapies, day after day, year after year, usually 7 days a week. People on the outside cannot grasp the necessary skills that our children require help with. My ultimate hope is that one day soon my children will live in a world where they will be accepted and appreciated despite their differences. As long as I'm here, I try to surround them with people who love them and accept them as they navigate this world, because autism never takes a day off. This is true, and it really hits home for me as a parent, and moving forward as a school counselor. It's something that I will always remember and focus on when working with students with ASD. So, conclusion to my presentation, I just want to reiterate that autism is a lifelong condition, but proper treatments and services can improve lives greatly for those with autism. Many people with autism go on to live self-sustaining, effective, and rewarding lives. And as school counselors, we can be a big part of that success by fostering a school community of inclusion, peer mentorship, parental support, and understanding. I hope you enjoyed watching my presentation. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.